All right, so let's jump right in. Today we're diving into Faroe's news from November 11th, 2024.
Okay.
We've got articles from, let me see, Kringvarp Faroe and in.fo, so pretty good mix of sources today.
Sounds good.
So first up, the Suðuroyartunnelin. It's dominating the headlines as always.
Yeah.
Lots of back and forth about this proposed tunnel to Suðuroy, big project.
Huge.
Yeah. And today's news is, well, it's adding more to the conversation, definitely.
For sure. Landsbanken, the national banks, well, they're making some waves. They're criticizing the government, saying,
Oh, really?
yeah, saying their approach to the tunnel project, well, they're questioning the financial side of it, especially compared to the ferry service, the one running now.
Right, right.
It's a valid point, I think. This tunnel, it's a massive project.
Oh, absolutely. But okay, hold on. Because in.fo just reported, like just now, that all the political parties have signed on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. A semjuskjal, an agreement to actually go ahead with the tunnel.
Huh, so that's a big development.
It is. It's like a total turnaround.
Yeah. But, even the Lugma, the prime minister, is saying, well, he's saying there's still a lot to figure out. Like, this agreement is more of a political promise right now. Lots of details, the logistics, the finances, all that, still up in the air.
Okay. So it's a yes, but a yes with some question marks, for sure.
Tack.
Makes you think, like, how's this going to change things, for Suðuroy, for all of the Faroe Islands? Is this going to be a boom for the economy?
Mm-hmm.
Or will there be some downsides, unintended consequences and all that?
Very good point. It's something to watch, for sure.
Definitely. Okay, so shifting gears a bit, there's some international news making its way into the Faroes media. And, well, some familiar names popping up, actually. Trump and Putin.
Figures.
Yeah. Kringvarp Faroe is quoting, let's see, Peskov. That's Putin's spokesperson. He's denying, like totally denying, that there's been any recent talks between them. But then you have in.fo, they're reporting on these really strong statements from Trump.
Yeah.
And it seems like they're, directed at Putin.
So it's kind of a he said, she said situation.
Yeah. Right. It's like, who do you believe?
Yeah, and it's interesting, it shows how even things happening far away politically can still create buzz here in the Faroes. People are paying attention, they're thinking about how the world stage could affect us.
Definitely. And adding to that, Kringvarp Faroe also mentioned Netanyahu. He's been reaching out to Trump.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Makes you wonder if it's connected to the U.S. election coming up, Could be potential shifts in global politics. Who knows?
It's possible. Netanyahu and Trump, they've got a history, right? If they team up again, who knows what the effects might be, especially in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm. Definitely something to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
And how it might affect, the Faroe Islands' relationship with the U.S., all of that.
Exactly. Now, speaking of things to keep an eye on, the war in Ukraine, it's still a major concern.
Mm-hmm.
In.fo has a report. It's saying that North Korean soldiers might be fighting with the Russians.
Wow.
Yeah, if that's true, that's a big escalation.
It would be. And VP.fo is reporting on the UK's assessment of the casualties, the Russian casualties, It's a stark reminder of the human cost of this war. It's still going on,
It is a grim reminder that war, the effects, they can reach even the most peaceful places.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, let's switch to something a bit more positive.
Yeah.
In.fo had a story about Mikael Thomasson, the Faroes football coach.
Yeah.
His team in Sweden just set an attendance record.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It is. Go Mikael.
Great to see Faroes talent doing so well, on the international stage.
Totally. And speaking of talent, let's not forget what's happening here at home.
Yeah.
In.fo and VP.fo both mentioned a new play premiering. It's called Droppyert 2.
Oh, the new play. That's exciting.
Yeah. And VP.fo also mentioned the Tour Table Tennis Club. They're celebrating their 30th anniversary.
Wow, 30 years. That's a big milestone.
It is. Shows you how vibrant the community life is here.
For sure. And there's more, actually. VP.fo also had a story about Andrea Poulsen. She's celebrating her 100th birthday.
100 years old. That's incredible.
It is a whole century in the Faroes. Think of the story she must have.
Wow, yeah. And speaking of celebrating, there's a lot of buzz around the first Lego League competition. It's happening in Tórshavn. VP.fo had a piece on it.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I bet those kids are coming up with some amazing stuff, all that creativity.
I'm sure they are. It's so inspiring seeing that kind of energy and innovation, even in a place as small as the Faroes.
Absolutely. Okay, let's talk about some economic news now. VP.fo is reporting on the growth of winter tourism. Seems like more and more people are discovering the Faroes, even when it's, not exactly beach weather.
Right. It's great for the local economy.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But, there's some concerns, too. VP.fo published a letter to the editor. It was highlighting some of the challenges that come with platforms like Booking.com, especially how they affect pricing for local businesses.
It's a tricky balance, isn't it? You want to welcome tourists, boost the economy, but you also have to protect the local communities.
Yeah, for sure. It's a conversation that's happening everywhere, it seems, as tourism grows.
Absolutely. And speaking of important industries, we can't forget fishing. VP.fo had a story about the Cambuur, that's a fishing vessel. It just came back from a successful trip to Flemish Cap.
Nice.
Yeah, a good catch. It'll support a lot of livelihoods.
It's a reminder of how connected the Faroes people are to the sea. It's shaped our culture, our economy for generations.
It really has. And speaking of shaping the future, this whole Suðuroy or Tunnelin thing, it really has people thinking, about the future of the Faroe Islands. Big changes like that always spark a lot of debate.
Oh, definitely. And speaking of debate, there's been a lot of talk lately about, about the Faroes' language.
Oh, right, right.
Lena Anderson, she kind of stirred the pot with that question of hers.
Mm.
Dugir tu at Tosa Faroist. Like, do you know how to speak Faroese?
Yeah, I saw that. It's a question that goes beyond just, how well you speak the language. It's
Right.
about Faroe's identity. How do we hold on to our culture in a world that's becoming, well, more and more globalized?
It really makes you think, what does it even mean to be Faroese these days in the 21st century and all that?
Exactly. Now, completely changing the subject here. Did you see that Biden invited Trump to the White House?
Wait, what? Seriously?
Yeah, it's all over the news, even here in the Faroes. Pretty unexpected, huh?
I mean, yeah, the U.S. political scene, it always has these global ripples, and I'm sure people here, they've got strong opinions about it.
Oh, for sure. We'll have to see how it all plays out, what it means for the Faroe Islands and our relationship with the U.S.
For sure. Okay, so on a lighter note, it looks like the holiday spirit is starting to make an appearance. Yeah, NGFO mentioned that the Christmas Village in SMS, it's getting ready to open. Something cheerful to look forward to amidst all the political stuff.
I like it. And speaking of things to celebrate, VP.fo had this nice article. It was about Maurice Moore and Litley Snar. They were honored in Sander, for all the things they've done for the community.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It is. It's heartwarming, seeing people get recognized for their good deeds reminds us that even in small communities, individuals they can really make a difference.
Absolutely. And kind of along those lines, there was a letter to the editor in FOFO.
Yeah.
It was talking about how we need to really value the people who work in elder care.
Yeah, it's a tough job for sure.
It is, and they deserve all the support we can give them.
I couldn't agree more. Now, switching gears a bit, In.fo also reported on this new podcast. It's created by students, and it's about mental health.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Yeah, it's encouraging, young people taking the initiative, talking about these issues that are, they're often stigmatized.
It's so important to have open conversations about mental health, especially for young people.
Absolutely. It's good to see the Faroe Islands, joining that global movement towards more awareness and understanding.
Definitely. Okay, so VP.fo raised some concerns about the Giljagarur elder care facility.
Oh, what happened?
Well, it seems like they got a kind of a critical assessment from the National Health Service.
Oh.
Yeah, sounds like some improvements are needed.
That's concerning. Providing good care, especially as the population gets older, it's a real challenge.
Yeah, something we need to stay focused on, address it before it becomes a bigger problem.
Agreed. Now, and Gemfo had some reports about, some incidents that have raised some concerns about safety and security here.
Oh, no, what happened?
There was a fire in a waste container, and then a sexual assault case, and even a bomb threat, which caused some disruption with air travel.
It's unsettling to hear about these things, even if they are, isolated incidents. Makes you wonder if we need to rethink our safety measures,
Yeah.
be more vigilant.
Yeah, I mean, the world's changing, right? Even a peaceful place like the Faroe Islands, we can't afford to be complacent about security.
You're right. Okay, so let's talk about tourism. It's been generating a lot of discussion lately, the impact of tourism on the Faroe Islands.
Yeah, it's a hot topic for sure. VP.fo had this opinion piece. It was titled Varsko, which means warning. Pretty strong title.
Well, yeah.
It was raising some serious questions about, what happens if tourism just keeps growing unchecked? What's the cost,
It's a good point. Like, how do you balance the economic benefits with, preserving the culture, the environment, all that?
Exactly. It's a challenge for a lot of places, not just the Faroes. How do you welcome visitors, share the beauty of a place without, well, without ruining what makes it special.
Right, right. That's
Oh,
tough. No easy answers.
definitely not. But it's a conversation we need to have. Speaking of tourism, VP.Fo also mentioned this new visitor center opening in Vestmanna. Yeah, it sounds promising. They're focusing on sustainable tourism, educating visitors about the ecosystem, how fragile it is.
That's good. At least we're, becoming more aware of the impact and trying to manage it responsibly.
Yeah, taking steps in the right direction. Now, before we move on, I wanted to mention a couple of stories that, well, they just kind of capture the unique spirit of the Faroe Islands.
All years.
Okay, so first, there's this story about a special bench being installed in Vestmanna.
A bench.
Yeah, but it's not just any bench. It's designed to raise awareness about dementia.
Oh, wow. That's really thoughtful.
It is. Small gestures, they can still make a difference.
Absolutely. What's the other story?
This one's a bit more, well, unusual. It's about this piece of ambergris that washed ashore.
Ambergris. What's that?
Whale vomit, basically.
Wait, what?
Yeah, but it's actually quite valuable to use it in perfume.
Whale vomit and perfume. You learn something new every day.
You do, you do. I mean, who would have thought? Just goes to show you never know what you'll find in the Faroe Islands. Always full of surprises.
It really is. And speaking of surprises, seems like there's always something new happening here. Never a dull moment in the Faroe Islands.
You got that right. And today is no different. INAFO has been reporting on, well, the rising cost of living here. It's affecting everyone, seems like, but especially families, especially those with kids.
Yeah, it's tough everywhere these days. Prices going up, putting a squeeze on everyone's budget.
It's true. And here in the Faroes, I mean, housing costs are a big issue, especially in Tórshavn.
Yeah, bet. Finding a place to live
Yeah.
that you can actually afford, it's got to be hard,
Yeah.
especially for young people, starting out, trying to make ends meet.
Exactly. And don't forget, we're pretty remote here. A lot of things have to be imported, which adds to the cost.
Right, makes sense. We're kind of at the mercy of, global supply chains and all that.
That's the reality. It's a tough situation, no easy answers. And speaking of tough decisions, VP.Fo is reporting on a proposal to raise the retirement age.
Oh, what do they got in mind?
They're talking about raising it to 70 for anyone born in 72 or later.
Wow, 70. That's a pretty big change.
It is. The government's saying it's about, making sure the pension system is sustainable in the long run, especially with more and more people getting older.
Makes sense. But I bet not everyone's happy about it.
You're right. There are concerns about fairness, affordability, what it means for people who are close to retirement age now.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay, let's move to something a bit more heartwarming.
Mm-hmm.
VP.Fo had this sweet story about a youth choir in Jomor. They've been singing the same song since 1942.
Really? Wow, what song is it?
It's called Nu Fitna Tindar.
That's amazing. Passing down that musical tradition generation after generation, music can really connect us to the past, to our community.
It's true. It's like a reminder that even though the world keeps changing, some things stay the same. Like, speaking of things that stay the same, there's this letter to the editor in Dafo. It was talking about, the importance of community spirit here in the Faroes.
That's something special about the Faroes, isn't it? People helping each other out, supporting local businesses, working together to preserve what makes this place unique.
Yeah, it's something we often take for granted, I think, but it's really important, especially these days when, well, it seems like everyone's just looking out for themselves.
You're right. It's all about the individual now. But here in the Faroes, there's still that sense of, we're all in this together.
Yeah, and that's something worth holding on to. Well, I think that about wraps up our look at today's news from the Faroe Islands.
Time flies when you're having fun, right?
It does. We've covered a lot of ground today, from politics and economics to, well, whale vomit.
Just another day in the Faroe Islands.
Exactly. It's a place where global issues meet local life, And the spirit of the Faroes people, it kind of shines through it all.
Well said. To our listeners, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you've learned something new, maybe seen the Faroe Islands from a different perspective. And until next time, keep exploring, keep discovering.
And keep listening.